What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC 258, Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. And I'd say a little bit of an underrated card. I don't know if it's worthy of a pay-per-view, especially with the main card portion of it. But I do think there's some really exciting fights scattered throughout the card. I think Marquez Pitolo is going to be an absolute war. I think that Simone and Kelleher is going to be a really fun fight. Philip Rowe, Gabe Green is going to be a really fun fight. Doesn't really have the name value you'd expect on a pay-per-view card, but I think it's going to be exciting, and of course, there's always another opportunity to make some money, so excited for that. And of course, since this is a pay-per-view, going to be doing my DraftKings contest, as always. To enter that, you got to first like the video, second, subscribe if you haven't yet, and then third, comment down your DraftKings username, and I will get you in there as soon as possible, limiting that to the first 150 people. Last time I got second out of 200, which was awesome. We'll see if I can do it again, but I'll get $25 to the winner there. Not much, just something to show. Thanks for all the support from you guys, and make sure you guys have Cashapp, Venmo, or PayPal, and so I can get you your winnings there. So, with that said, let's get into it. Starting with the fight doesn't go to decision lines, and we have Hernandez Vieira minus 515. Fight doesn't go to decision. Yeah, I would be kind of shocked if this fight went to decision. Honestly, Vieira is somebody that has a 100% finish rate. Never won by decision. Hernandez is a really good finisher himself. The problem here is Hernandez has finished most of his wins by submission, 71%. Not much of a knockout guy, only 14% of his wins by knockout. I think he only has like 2 of them in his career. And one was like the very first fight of his career, and then one was against the Beverly Hills Ninja. So I don't know if he's going to be able to knock out Vieira here, and that's probably his only path to victory. He's obviously not going to submit Vieira, not happening. Could he win a decision against Vieira? I mean, unless Vieira really gasses out. But I do expect Vieira to take down Hernandez at some point, probably in the first round, and probably submit him shortly after. We saw Marcus Perez take down Anthony Hernandez and submit him. We saw Kevin Holland get Hernandez out of there in 30 seconds as well. So, I like Vieira a ton, but in this fight, since it is minus 515, maybe throw a little bit of Hernandez in there, but it's really hard to see a path to victory for him, honestly. Marquez Pitolo, minus 170, fight doesn't go to decision. So Marquez is another guy with a 100% finish rate, has never won by decision. Pitolo, really good finisher himself. Marquez has never been knocked out, never been submitted. Pitolo has been finished in 4 out of his 7 losses, 2 by knockout, 2 by submission. And I'll be honest, I like Marquez here quite a bit. The only problem is going to be that 2.5-year layoff, which is a little bit crazy, but checked his Instagram. He's looking really good, but of course, cage rust is indeed a thing, so got to be wary of that. But I do think this is going to be a war. I think somebody's going to get finished here, and I'm more so leaning on the Marquez side at 8,700, but I think Pitolo at 7,500 is not a bad play at all. Green in Rowe, minus 165. Fight doesn't go to decision. This is a fight I'm going to have a ton of. It might be like my second or maybe even first highest owned fight on the card, just because of the styles of both guys, just because it's right in that mid-range, right in the 8,000, 8,200 range, which we more than likely see it's going to end up on the optimal lineup. I mean, both guys have incredible volume and incredible finish rates. Both guys have never won by decision. Both have 100% finish rates. Rowe has won 43% of his fights by knockout, 57% by submission. And Gabe Green has won 67% of his fights by knockout and 33% by submission. So yeah, both guys, 100% finish rates. Both guys have never won by decision. And Rowe's been finished in 1 out of 2 of his losses, and Green's been finished in 2 out of his 3 losses. So both guys are finishers. Both guys have been finished. Small cage. I think this fight's going to score very well. Hopefully it's not like crazy owned, because I'm going to have a ton of it, but it's really not hard to see. Like, these guys are finishers, and this is going to be an exciting fight. I think it's honestly like one of the more exciting fights on the card. I know it's not a great name value, but this fight should be a war. And then Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. I don't necessarily see this fight finishing. I see the other 3 finishing, but if there is a finish, it's probably on the Gilbert Burns side. Kamaru Usman's not really a finisher. I think he has, I want to say, like 2 finishes in the UFC. Of course, remember the Colby Covington finish. But I do think that if there's a finish, it's going to be more on the Burns side. 74% finish rate for Burns, only 42% by Usman. Burns has been knocked out once. Usman's never been knocked out, but he was submitted way long ago in his career. But as far as that goes, I do think this is a fight you're going to want to target. I think it's going to be high-paced, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit more in a little bit. But Kamaru Usman scores a ton on DraftKings, and we can't deny how good Burns has been looking as well. So definitely a fight I want both of. More so leaning on the Usman side, but I don't think Burns is a bad play at all at the 7,200. Getting into the core plays, Rodolfo Vieira, 9,300, talked about him a little bit, 100% finish rate. This guy is an absolute wizard on the mat, to say the least. And what I like about him is he's not like these typical grapplers that are like very, very good on the ground. This guy has some solid wrestling actually as well. And just taking a look at his stats throughout the first 2 fights of his career, he averages 6.05 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 55% takedown accuracy. Like some really good numbers there. And I do expect him to get Hernandez down, somebody that tends to, play in the grappling game as well. So I don't think he's going to have that option here. I think a path to victory for Hernandez is going to have to be knocking out Vieira, which Hernandez isn't really a power puncher guy, or winning a possible decision after Vieira gasses out. But even then, I think that Vieira is probably going to get this done and get this done early. I think it's probably going to be in the first round as well. And I do think he's going to get some control time, some takedowns. I like it a lot. I think he's one of the best plays on the slate, and for a really good reason. He's the highest priced guy. So give me Vieira here. I like him a lot. And just really struggling to find a path to victory for Anthony Hernandez. Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. Kamaru Usman is sitting at 9,000. And just taking a look at Usman and what he's done. In his last fight against Jorge Masvidal, he scored 156 DraftKings points with that new scoring. Basically, it was a ton of control time, 17 minutes and 38 seconds, which that's something he does. He landed 263 strikes. That's what he does. Maybe all of them won't be significant, but now that we have the new scoring, every strike counts. And then against Covington, 130, against Woodley, 168, and it's just that control time. Like against Woodley, 18 minutes of control time. Against Dos Anjos, 18 minutes of control time, 195 DraftKings points. It's really hard to ignore how great of a scorer Kamaru Usman is on DraftKings, and if he wins, it's hard for him not to be on the optimal lineup. I mean, if he wins, it's going to mean he's getting control time, maybe some takedowns, and landing a lot of volume as well. But of course, Gilbert Burns has been on a run himself. Gilbert Burns is the more dangerous guy. I think for Gilbert to win, he's going to have to get a finish here. Could he do it? Maybe. But I'm more on the Kamaru Usman side. I'm going to have a ton of them, but I will have some Burns as well. Next, we have Gabe Green, who is 8,000. Core play here. Kind of a risky play because he very well could get finished, but I do know I want a ton of this fight as well. I'm going to lean more to the Gabe Green side just because he's cheaper, and I like his style as well. We saw in the Dan Rodriguez fight, his chin really held up. He came in on short notice. His cardio looked pretty decent for a short notice fight because he threw a ton of volume. Have seen Rowe knocked out. Rowe in his Dana White Contender Series fight, he got hurt really bad, was able to recover, get a finish later in the fight after his opponent gassed out. I don't think Green's going to gas out, so I actually like Green here. The only problem is he's going to have a 4-inch height disadvantage and a 7.5 reach disadvantage, but Rowe doesn't really use that advantage at all. I mean, I think Green's going to be able to close the distance, especially in the small cage, and I think he's going to finish Rowe here, but this is a fight you are going to want both sides of, and I will have some Rowe for sure, but definitely leaning on the Green. It might be like something like 50% Green, like 40% Rowe, something like that, but I do know I want a ton of this fight. Julian Marquez, 8,700, going against Maki Pitolo. See a lot of Maki Pitolo love. I don't really get it. I mean, Maki Pitolo is somebody that's looked awful in the UFC. Against Callum Potter, he was a big favorite. Expected him to get a knockout in that fight. Potter ended up beating him. He did beat Bird, which Bird's no longer in the UFC. Lost to Impa Kasaganay in a fight where he looked like he didn't even want to be there at all. And then he let Darren Stewart get his first submission win ever on him as well. Just really bad look. He hasn't looked impressive to me at all. So Julian Marquez, the problem with him is coming off that big layoff, but I think skill for skill, Marquez is the much more skilled guy. I'm not really high on Maki Pitolo at all anymore. He just looked bad. So I like Marquez a lot. Of course, there are those concerns with the layoff, but if he shows up anywhere close to where he was prior to him having the layoff, the injuries, I do think he has a really good chance of winning and a good chance of finishing as well. And what I like about Marquez is 100% finish rate. The dude's tough, never been knocked out. And Maki Pitolo is someone that slows down a ton. We see it every fight. He slows down a lot. Marquez slows down as well, but I don't know. It should be a good fight. It should be an absolute war, but I do lean towards the Marquez side. I don't think he's going to be that high owned because a ton of people on Pitolo, and the line is coming down a lot. I think Marquez might be like minus 150, minus 145 by the time the fight starts. I think he's sitting at like minus 165 right now, so some money is really coming in on Maki Pitolo. I don't get it myself, but this should be a fight you want to target both sides. All right, GBP plays here, our tournament plays. Ricky Simone, 9,100. I think the new scoring system fits him very well. Was able to get a nice finish his last time out against Perello. In his last fight, scored 131 DraftKings points. Prior to that, scored 107 against Ray Borg. And this guy's going to get takedowns. He's going to have control time. The only problem I'd say is just how dangerous Brian Kelleher is. And Simone's not really a finisher. I think if somebody gets a finish in this fight, I guess I'd say Kelleher, but Kelleher's somebody that's been finished a ton himself, so I don't know. But Ricky Simone is definitely somebody you're going to want to keep an eye on just because of the takedown upside. We saw a very good wrestler, lots of control time as well. And Kelleher has been finished 6 times. 6 times, 6 out of 11 losses he's been finished in 5 times by submission. So wouldn't be shocked if Simone got a submission here, but I am expecting probably a decision here if he does win. But Kelleher is someone that's always live, someone that's always dangerous, so got to beware for that. And when he is shooting those takedowns, he has to be very careful because Kelleher has one of the nastiest guillotines I've ever seen. We saw him get it against Eddie Osborne. We saw him get it against Rodriguez in his last fight as well. So Kelleher is dangerous. He's got to beware. I wouldn't be shocked if he snatched up a guillotine, but if Simone does win, you're probably going to want him on your lineups. Mallory Martin, 8,600. So what I like here is I don't think she's going to be high owned. Kind of a little bit too expensive, you'd say, but I feel like this fight's going to score fairly high just because of the style of both fighters. Viana, somebody that has a 100% finish rate. Mallory Martin is someone that's a very good wrestler. Viana has very bad takedown defense. I think that takedowns will come at will, and I think Viana is going to welcome the takedowns as well. So Viana, brown belt in BJJ, world grappling champion, although she did get submitted by Veronica Macedo. Martin, somebody that's a brown belt as well. She got submitted by Verna Jandaroba. No shame in that at all. But I just think Martin's going to have a significant strength advantage, a significant wrestling advantage. And what really, brought me towards Martin and why I like her a lot in this fight is watching Hannah Cifers versus Viana. Viana kind of pulled guard, and Cifers was on top of her for a good 2 or 3 minutes. And if you can't submit Hannah Cifers from your guard, I mean, I don't think you can do it to a strong fighter like Mallory Martin, a brown belt like Mallory Martin. So I think Martin's going to be fine here, but of course there always is that threat from armbar from guard, and Viana's dangerous. Viana, like I said, has finished 100% of her wins, but if Martin is able to take down Viana, stay safe, I think she wins, and I think she gets a lot of top control and takedowns in doing so. Philip Rowe, 8,200. Like I said, I think this fight's going to finish. I think there's going to be a lot of volume. I think it's going to be an absolute war. And yeah, Rowe's dangerous. Rowe has finished 100% of his wins. He hits very hard. Gabe Green has been knocked out twice, so it's definitely possible. I'm more so on the Gabe Green side, but I'm definitely going to have a ton of Rowe as well, just because of how dangerous he is. And I think this is a fight you're going to want to target just because the winner probably scores high. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting fights on the slate. Yeah, Green's been finished in 2 out of his 3 losses, 2 by knockout. I remember he got knocked out by Jalen Turner years ago. His chin did hold up against Daniel Rodriguez, but yeah, I like Green here, but I will have some Rowe just in case Rowe does clip him, which is definitely possible. I think someone's getting finished here. Miranda Maverick, 8,500. Kind of the same thing with Mallory Martin. I do think Maverick's going to be the stronger fighter. If she can get on top of Robertson and stay safe, or even in the striking, she's going to have a massive advantage. So I do think there's paths to Miranda Maverick winning and Miranda Maverick really scoring high. Personally, I'm picking the Jillian Robertson side for a win, but like I said, I think either fighter that wins here is going to score very high. It seems like in all the Robertson fights, the winner of the fight score very high on DraftKings. It seems like Robertson's one of those kill or be killed fighters. She either wins by finish or she loses by finish more often than not. And Maverick showed that she has decent finishing ability. So if it stays on the feet, I do expect Maverick to probably get a knockout. On the mat, it's going to be a little bit iffy. I do think Robertson has the grappling advantage, but if Maverick can get on top, I do think she'll be okay there. So Maverick, definitely something to look at 8,500. All right, live dogs. Jillian Robertson talked about it just a little bit, but I think if she gets on top, which I have seen Maverick taken down on the regional scene, I've seen her reversed, I've seen her put in some bad spots. If Robertson can get on top and get on top early, I do think she can have a lot of success and probably even get a submission as well. Obviously, Robertson, black belt in BJJ, very good grappler. That's her bread and butter. Her striking is not there. If she cannot get this to the mat, she's going to lose. Simple as that. But she needs to get on top. And if she does, I do think she'll have a lot of success. Tons of love for Maverick. I don't think Robertson's going to be all that popular. And like I said, I'm playing both sides of this fight because I do think the winner is going to score high just because of the control time aspect, the takedown aspect, and there should be a lot of volume on the feet from the Maverick side. But Robertson ultimately wants to get this down to the mat. And if she does, I do think she'll have a decent amount of success as well. Maki Pitolo, 7,500. Yeah, it's just the concerns with Marquez, the 2.5-year layoff. Maybe he shows up, he has a slow start. Pitolo, a really fast starter, hits hard. They call him coconut bombs for a reason. And although Pitolo has not looked great at all whatsoever in the UFC, maybe he could put out a guy like Marquez. And I think this is going to be a war. I do think somebody gets finished. Maybe Pitolo gets the win there. Yeah, definitely a tournament play here, something you want to target in those tournaments because if Pitolo wins, it's probably by some type of finish. It's hard to see Pitolo winning a decision here. Maybe he can. I just think it's hard to see this fight going to decision as a whole. But, yeah, like I said, I like Marquez at 8,700, but I think Pitolo is a fine underdog there at 7,500. Polyana Viana, 7,600. I like this play just because of her finish rate of 100%. If she wins, it's going to be by submission. And if she wins, it's probably an armbar from guard as well. We saw her do it in her last fight against Emily Whitmire. We saw her get a couple submissions on her record as well. So, yeah, I think 7,600 is not bad for Viana, just based off the fact that if she wins, it's by submission. She's not going to win a decision. Maybe she gets a knockout. She has a couple on her record. But more than likely, if she does win, it's going to be some type of armbar from guard situation. So, for that reason, I don't mind Viana at 7,600. I do think she'll be pretty low owned, I'd imagine. Because she pretty much is sub or bust in my opinion. And maybe she does get the sub. At 7,600, I'm willing to take a shot on it and find out. Macy Barber versus Lexa Grasso. Yeah, another fight that I think is going to be close. I think all these women's fights are close, honestly. Barber is going to have the power advantage, the strength advantage. I think she could possibly get takedowns on Grasso, hold her up against the cage. I think that's going to be a smart game plan. There on the feet, it's really iffy because Barber is so hittable. Still a little bit green on the feet, but she is dangerous, finishing a lot of her wins. I've never seen Grasso knocked out, but there is a first for everything, so I think Barber is a fine play. As far as Grasso on the other side, I think is fine as well, just because of the amount of volume that's probably going to be thrown in this fight. Kind of don't have a great read on it. I lean Barber as for a pick, but I think Grasso is really, really live to get a win here as well. So I do on both sides here, more so on the Macy Barber side, because if there is a finish, it's probably from her. And I do think she can get takedowns as well, control time, if she does choose to do so. Pump plays. Gilbert Burns, 7,200. Not much to say here. I mean, the guy's been on fire as of late. He's been on a really nice win streak. I want to say 5 or 6 wins in a row. 74% finish rate. If there is a finish in this fight between him and Usman, it's going to be from the Burns side. He has 5 rounds to do it. Obviously, really dangerous on the mat. If Usman does take him down, maybe he finds something off his back, although Usman is a black belt himself, but you got to give Burns the grappling advantage. Maybe he can hit a sweep or reversal, which is going to be hard to do on a guy with really good top control like Usman. But, I mean, it's possible he can get a submission or maybe even knock out a guy like Kamaru Usman, although Usman's never been knocked out. Burns has shown some really solid power as of late, but I don't know. I think it's a fine pump play. I do think it's going to be very popular as well. My strong lean is Usman, but I'm going to be playing some Burns. Brian Kelleher, 7,100, somebody that is always a live dog, somebody that's always a good pump play to look at just because of how dangerous the guy is. Finishing 81% of his wins. Ricky Simone, not really a finishing threat, I don't believe, in this fight. So I think if there's a finish, it's going to come from the Kelleher side, kind of the same thing with Burns. And I talked about that nasty guillotine he has, and Simone's more than likely going to shoot a takedown on Kelleher. So if he's doing that, it's only playing with fire. Would not be completely shocked if Kelleher did win. He's at a really good price here. And even on the feet, like we've seen Simone rocked a lot of times. We've seen him knocked out by Uriah Faber. So Kelleher still has some solid power. I mean, we saw him knock out Hunter Azure, where Azure was a big favorite there. So hard to count on a guy like Kelleher. I will have some Kelleher, but more than likely Simone wins. But man, Kelleher like at 7,100 is a pretty good pump play, I'd say. Fades, yeah, Bobby Green, 8,900. There's not going to be any wrestling, grappling, you wouldn't think. I mean, you would hope not if you're Bobby Green. I remember the last fight, he took down Thiago Moises. I was like, what are you doing? Ended up losing that fight against Moises, and what was a pretty close fight. But he's definitely not going to want to go takedowns here against Jim Miller because that's Jim Miller's only path to victory. But you never know with Bobby Green, somebody that has really questionable fight IQ and just somebody that's not really a finisher whatsoever. I want to say his last finish was like in 2010, 2011, so it's been a while. And typically does not score well. He scored 53 in that loss to Moises, scored 98 in that win against Patrick where he had 4 takedowns, tons of top control. I don't really see that happening here. If he does, he's playing with fire. Did have a good night against Lando Venata, 111. Before that, Clay Guida, 77. Drakkar Klose, 52 in a loss. Ronaldo, 40 in a loss. Venata had that draw, had 48. So just not typically a really high score. At 8,900, there's other plays that I'd rather gravitate towards. So not really going to be playing any Bobby Green. Maybe a little bit, but not really much. Let's see. Jim Miller has been finished. If I can find it, Jim Miller has been finished only 5 times. 5 times out of 15 losses, has lost by decision 10 times. So Bobby Green would have to knock him out. Maybe it's possible, but like I said, Green has not had a finish since like 2011. All right, guys, that's about it. Always a reminder, you can become a member of the Patreon. The link will be in the description below. With that, you get the full access to my model, which has my premium projections, GPP lineup percentages, Draftkings article, which is going to be out sometime on Friday, my Patreon-only Fight Day live stream, which is going to be on Saturday before the fights, and then access to Discord as well. You can ask me any questions. Lots of sharp guys in there as well. Feel free to sign up. If not, all good. Thanks for watching. If you can leave a like on the video, it would help out a ton. Subscribe if you have not yet, would help out a ton. And yeah, good luck. UFC 258, decent prize pools, ready to win some money. Comment down your DraftKings name, and good luck on Saturday.